locked up forever, that. Everyone, welcome to the first United Road 01 episode of a new channel, I suppose. I'm very, very pleased to say that the first guest we've managed to get on is somebody who I've been trying to get on this show for God knows how long. A really good mate of mine, Steve from the 1958. Steve, thanks so much for doing this, mate, and welcome.
No problem. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, so I think the best thing to do, obviously, we'll get on to the sort of nitty-gritty stuff later. I know there's quite a few important things that need to be discussed regarding sort of the 1958 and the future and various campaigns that are really close to everybody's heart, really, as a match-going fan. But we'll get on to that later. I think the first thing we should discuss, really, is obviously Amorim, first game in charge against Ipswich at the weekend. What did you make of it, mate? Did you think, were you happy with what you saw? Were you not happy?
The first 80 seconds were brilliant.
Yeah.
And then we just seem to fall back into that. I don't know. To me, there's just a massive lack of it's confidence when things aren't as they're supposed to be. It's just one of them things that it's crazy, really. And I think you've just disappeared. Very good.
Well, the whole laptop crashed then. Carry on, Steve. Sorry.
I was going to just take over myself then.
There you go. Carry on. You're a natural, mate. It literally just went off. I was like, what's it done? Carry on, mate.
Yeah, no, it was, for me, it was just, with some glimmers of hope. But then it's the same old, isn't it? It's one of them that's, I know it's going to take time, but for me, the basics of being a professional football player, and yes, the excuse of 2 training sessions, but being told a position to play and a discipline to hold, I can't get how it falls apart so easily and so quickly. So but we'll see. I mean, we didn't have a full squad because of the internationals. I get that. There's players on the way back, and I get that. But it's, I think he's got his work cut out with the current squad anyway.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think sort of a mate of mine made a good point before that. Obviously, usually there's kind of like a new manager bounce and all that sort of jargon, isn't there? But obviously, Ruben Amorim was just in charge, and there was 4 very good results, and 3 wins and a draw, and the draw coming against Chelsea, who were in good form.
Yeah. What
was it that sort of stopped the new manager bounce with Ruben Amorim? Do you think it was a new system? Do you think it was the international break? What did you put down to that? Because to be honest, I felt it was a little bit underwhelming. I thought.
Yeah, it was flat, weren't it? It was. I don't know. There can be, I suppose, quite a few small factors that just turned it into what it was. And like I said before, players coming back from the international break. I don't think he played his first choice 11. I'd like to think. I mean, I think the one thing I saw, he seemed massively pissed off towards the end of the game. Certainly halfway through the second half. When you're watching his facial expressions, I think he was trying his best to stay composed, but he seemed quite bubbling with rage a little bit. So, but he's, I suppose, from his point of view, he's got to find his best 11. He's got to work with what he's got, and let's go from there.
Yeah, it's kind of the best we can do, really. And I mean, obviously, the next game's against Bodo Glimt or something. I don't know how you pronounce it, to be honest. But it's. Do you think it's kind of a good time to play an opposition where realistically we should be definitely expecting to win? Because do you think he'll start chopping and changing, or do you think he'll play his team that he wants to sort of his full strength team that he'd expect to see going forward?
I don't know. I think for me, what he's got to do is obviously he's got to get a few training sessions under his belt with the full squad, though. I believe that the training sessions they had, a lot of the guys on international duty weren't there. So a few training sessions, but also, in all fairness, mate, you say next game being a good game for teams we should be spanking, we should also be spanking teams that have just come up from the Championship in the likes of Ipswich. So we seem to be making a difficult job of anybody we play at the minute, but it's going to take time. I get that, and we let's just. I think for me, that first game, I weren't shocked. Very underwhelmed, but I think as long as as each game goes by, is just seeing progress, seeing something we're supposed to be doing, which we haven't seen for a while. So
Yeah, I thought as much as I sometimes don't enjoy some of the things he says, Jamie Carragher did a good analysis of the game, and I think that was the most refreshing thing. Obviously Casemiro and Eriksen are probably so used to playing a particular way, and he was constantly giving instructions to get them to move forward and get them to press high in the midfield. It was quite refreshing to see that there was a genuine style being worked on, and I think that was probably something we just didn't see with Ten Hag after nearly 3 years, and that was probably his downfall, to be honest. But there was definitely points in the match where I was happy. I think it was nice to see that sort of style of, I hate the phrase, but there was a style of play sort of being worked on. You could see there was something, and I think maybe with a bit more time we'll see it more consistently, which is good. But I'd agree with you. I think we should be beating Ipswich. Obviously a well coached, good manager with Kieran McKenna, decent players, but ultimately we should be beating teams that are coming up, shouldn't we?
I've said this a few times to people, and I think for me, my biggest frustration is where we get beat a lot of the time. Let's just take tactics and formations out of it. Is the opposition that get results are just showing more desire, they're showing more passion. The willingness to chase down the ball, and we for us, as soon as we start losing control of a game, and stats wise, I think possession wise, we had a silly amount of possession. But as soon as we start seeing, okay, this is not really going how we want it to do, and I think this is where there's a massive lack in confidence and self belief that that doubt creeps in, and the players just seem to revert back to what they used to, what they were doing, which is not very good.
Yeah, I suppose. Do you not think that might be a bit of a mentality team, a mentality thing, though? Because we've kind of seen it. So many teams have come back against us. We've especially in Europe, we've thrown leads away, and obviously we've reverted back to the same old nonsense that we don't like seeing. And do you not think that maybe is more of a mentality thing, that maybe some of the players just maybe haven't got what it takes, or they haven't got the mental space to be able to deal with just being a Manchester United player?
I think for a professional football player that's played a disgustingly high sum of money per week, to not be able to carry out some basic instructions and a change in formation and maybe a slight. I mean, for me, an example of that was Diallo. To me, he was playing as Amorim wanted him to play. He was tracking back. He was defending well. He was getting, he understood his role, and I thought he carried it out, pretty well. But one player carrying a role out pretty well is not, it's like playing a pressing game and there's one player pressing. It doesn't work, does it?
Well,
So,
no, yeah, exactly.
I think my frustration lies in what seems to be the basics. We just revert to the headless chicken stuff, and that is, it's so frustrating. It's frustrating to watch. But it's his first game. Let's give the guy time.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah,
sick of
exactly.
saying this, but
I feel like we've said it however many times over the last 11 and a half years. It's just getting tiring. That's what I mean. It's sort of a little bit. It's a little bit like we're all supposed to be dead excited about the new manager, and oh yeah, it's everything's going to be great again, and it's quite hard to do when we're a club that's used to managers of so long, and in the last, what is it, 5 or 6 in the last 11 years, it's a bit rubbish to know that the excitement's kind of dragged out of us a little bit, which is a bit of a shitty feeling, to be honest. Is there any players who should be a little worried, do you think?
I think there's quite a few players that should be worried, but then there's players that should have been worried under the last new manager and the last new manager before that, and the last. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
It's you get to a point where I think some of these players might just think they're invincible, and whatever happens, it's always the manager that'll go. And it's I think it's time. That there's players that we're all attached to, I suppose, and certainly players that have been there a while. That you get to a point, and it's just like if you're not enjoying yourself. I mean, it was one thing in his couple of interviews he did, Amorim before the Ipswich game, and it was like just he wants to go out and have fun. We want you to have fun, and they don't seem to. It's just it feels like everything's so painful what they're going through. It doesn't look enjoyable to them, and it's certainly not enjoyable for us to watch either.
that's the thing as well, though, isn't it? Like the body language comes off so
Mm.
much, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
some of the players, like you should be walking around with a Man United shirt on, like your 10 men, and buffing your chest out, and just like a sort of an aura to you, similar to like some maybe Cantona and Keane, things like that. But
Mm.
they just seem a little slouched and a bit like it's sort of the weight of the shirt sometimes is quite a bit for them, and it
Mm.
just makes me. I just want a manager at this point to come in, and I'm hoping Amorim's doing that as well as his tactics, obviously. But I just want him to come in and slap the faces and go, "You're playing for Man United. Play with a smile on your face, and it'll come naturally to you." And I think sometimes it does just literally come down to those basics, doesn't it?
I think as well for me, where I think personally, where I think patience needed is it's not just a new manager. It's a new structure above that manager, and everything prior to Ineos coming in has been, the standards that the Glazers set were top four in shirt sales. That's all they give a shit about. Do you know what I mean? So it whilst it's not acceptable for players to potentially underperform when it's all that's expected of you, it's probably a difficult thing. So they're trying to get out of that.
That culture kind of
that-
thing.
yeah, yeah, it is. It's the culture it stunk the place out, didn't it? The signings made because they'll sell shirts as opposed to is truly this the future of Man United signing an aging Casemiro and an aging Varane. They did us proud for a while, but it's just short termism, and I don't understand. Well, I do understand it from the Glazers' point of view, but that's a different story.
Yeah, that's to be honest, mate. We could have a whole show on that alone. I think. Probably on just the signings, never mind the Glazers.
Mm.
I think sort of speaking about that does bring me nicely to the next point, and I think with Ineos and sort of Glazers and stuff, there's obviously been a lot of talk recently in terms of finances, and one thing that's really pissed me off over the last probably 6 months, but obviously it sort of creeps up and constantly kept coming back into the conversation, really, but tickets and ticket sales and ticket pricing and the way tickets are dealt with at the club at the moment has been a major factor into just pissing me off in general, to be honest. Obviously, a few months ago, they changed the way tickets were passed on to friends and things like that. It no longer can be a screenshot, and I know you couldn't really do that anyway, but obviously I know fans did to help the friends. You've obviously now got the app that you have to go through, so you have to be a member. There's not really any way of getting around it. And obviously something came out today, which I know you tweeted about before, about the 97% of match tickets for this season have already been sold, with 5 age-related discounts available to our fans. Now that all major ticket releases have taken place, we have reached capacity of discounted tickets, and any future tickets released for this game, which is the Ipswich game in February, for anyone wondering, and any future tickets for this game will be sold at £66 for all fans, regardless of location or age. That, to me, is a piss take and a scandal and a slap in the face to regular fans and fans of everywhere to Man United. And I know yourself and the 1958 are doing quite a lot of work with the campaign at the moment, the FSA's campaign to stop exploiting loyalty. I think it's really important we address that. So what can you tell us about it, Steve?
So just going back to your point of the before I get into it a bit deeper, the selling tickets for £66, irrespective of where it is and who it's to. Bear in mind, season ticket holders are under the cost to use the tickets, So one of the options there is to sell the ticket back to the club. But I sell my ticket back to the club, which is a 39 quid ticket, and they'll sell it on for 66 quid. But I can't give my tickets to a mate free of charge. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Just to add to that as well, can I say as well, because there's been multiple times that I've seen as well that a lot of lads have sold their ticket back to the club for whatever the face value was for that particular game, let's say 35 to 50 quid. And the amount of times I've seen it resold with sports breaks, for example, or it's then added a burger and chips or something at Victoria Warehouse down the road, and it's all of a sudden not a 35 quid ticket or 38 quid ticket, it's now a £350 ticket. You've then got the Bodo Glimt thing as well coming up, that if it will affect your away allocation and away credits if you sell that back to the club. Considering there was such an issue with communication and stuff like that, it seems like whether it's Ineos or someone's badly advising them, but they're getting a lot of things wrong. And it's like you mentioned there, you've got to go to these games as well, and you have to sell it to the club back to 39 quid, and then they can then sell it for £66. It seems a disgrace, that, in my eyes.
I don't know. I mean, we've had sort of moving on a little bit, but I've had quite a lot of conversations with group members from different Premier League clubs, and we're not on our own, and hence the FSA's campaign. It's gone well around a few grounds. Not so well at Old Trafford, sadly, and hence why when we launched our new FC, the Fan Coalition 58, which is, when that was launched, our website, there was a contact us thing on there, and a fan or a representative from a fan group from a rival team actually got in touch with us wanting a conversation, and that conversation went down the lines of that, they thought, as a fan base as big as Man United are, that Manchester United fan base weren't really being represented with regards to these protests. So they've reached out to us and asked us to get involved in those, which we've welcomed with open arms. I'm sure you've seen the tweet we've just sent out. We've a plan. We've been in contact and conversations with Everton, Liverpool, and City, because Liverpool and City will be having the banner, a joint protest with the banner at Anfield. Anfield have also given the supporters group permission to take the banner into the stadium. We contacted Rick McGar, who's the head of fan culture, or whatever it's called, on 2 occasions, asking if we can do the same at Old Trafford, and we haven't had a reply. But we plan on at 12:30 outside the Trinity. We'll be meeting up with some of the Everton supporters group, just to have a group picture and a protest, and that the Premier League football clubs need to understand. I mean, figures just released, which makes it even more sickening, is that the Premier League, its value commercially and broadcasting wise, for the next 3 years has gone up 17%, and that equates to over a 3-year period, £12.2 billion in income. Yet for some reason, there seems to be a focus on penalising match-going fans, and it's concessions disappearing. It's we've had it, other clubs, and this is what we're talking about now is not just a Manchester United issue. It's an actual, it's the football in general. Football is nothing without the fans, famous man once said. But it would seem that whatever business models are sort of being put together. I mean, we've had conversations with Colette Roach and Rick McGar at the 58, we've sat down around the table and spoke to them. I've been to the meeting with regards to the regen project, whether it's a new ground or a refurbed Old Trafford, and even then, and it's drummed into us that the fans are our focus. Match going fans are our focus. They're our bread and butter. However, and the ticket prices are not. This is not going to get funded by ticket price increases. But then you see stuff like this, and you think you kind of like, I don't believe a word you're saying. Do you know what I
The
mean?
actions don't. The actions don't make. They sort of don't match to what the words are they? Really? And
No, no.
I think to add to that, I mean, obviously, I got the tweet up here, and obviously, there's 19 of the 20 Premier League clubs have increased ticket prices this season. So when you say it's not just a Man United issue, it is a football issue, and it's the thing is as well. We know as well that for me, seeing where the income comes from for all of the clubs in the Premier League, it isn't tickets and it isn't match going or match day revenue. It is broadcasting revenue,
Mm.
and I do feel that these ticket prices could be swallowed by the club because at the end of the day, I know modern football has got to a point where there's so much money involved in the game, and there is an element of business and profit and things to it. But football clubs are so much more than businesses to the people that love them, especially in communities like Old Trafford and similar to probably Anfield and Goodison Park. They are so integral to those communities, and it seems like, I mean, it's perfect, the perfect hashtag really, but it's the stop exploiting loyalty is exactly that. It seems to be a case that there's so many fans and so many people so close to the club and will follow wherever they go that they know they can always make money off these people. And at what point does a bubble burst where people go, do you know what? No more. We're not standing for this anymore. And I think that the campaign that the FSA are doing, and obviously and yourselves and every single fan should get involved with this really is the perfect starting point, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is for us because it's, as I said, it's the first time this has gone on over probably the last month, I would say, at various grounds where they've had the banners and join sort of standing in solidarity, if you will, for the greater good and the future of football as we know it. And it's a shame that Man United's not represented or hasn't been represented as it should have. But here we are now, and we will take over, and even to the point where, I mean, every Premier League club. I sat in on the last Premier League meeting with the FSA. I was invited to do so, and every Premier League club was supplied with a 6 meter by 1.5 meter banner. With the hashtag,
Yeah.
and our supporters trust decided to pin it to a fence and
With the
didn't even tell anyone it was happening. I
yeah.
know for a fact that that people at Chelsea had tried contacting Must to arrange a get together and the game before away at West Ham, and those reach outs were ignored. It's a shame, but we're happy to just crack on ourselves, and we'll take that over. It's important. It's important to match going fans, and it's important that fans have a voice.
Yeah,
It's as simple
absolutely.
as that. The clubs need to understand. I mean, you saw what happened. The power in unity with fan bases. Prime example of that was the European Super League. I mean, that football was literally closed down when there was a whisper of this happening. And it. I think for things to change or stabilise, it needs fan bases to come together across football and stand up for what's right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite funny as well that I mean, it was only I believe last 2 weekends ago there was a conversation I think in the Sky Studio about the atmosphere at Old Trafford and across other grounds, whilst actually failing to highlight the issue of ticket pricing. If you're
Mm.
going to continuously price out regular match going working fans and replace them with no disrespect to tourists, obviously they spend the money and they're very well to do as they please. But when you are constantly chopping and changing and allowing tourists to constantly buy these tickets at such huge prices because clubs are cashing in effectively, at the end of the day, the thing that's going to happen is the atmosphere is going to take a hit. And Old Trafford to me was always a ground that always kept its atmosphere, and it sort of lost its way a little bit, but started to come back with the TRA section, the Stretford end always being the loudest, and various different parts of the ground that I know the 1958 were obviously a massive part of within the ground. So I just think as well, it's not only that fan bases I think need to come together. Do you not think maybe the broadcasters could say something, or is it because of the broadcasters that they're keeping it quiet because broadcasters kind of aren't bothered? Maybe.
No, I mean it's all about spreading the wealth. That it's all fine and dandy, bragging that the Premier League is the most watched and the blah 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 blah, and as a result of that, all this money comes flooding in. But still, your match going fan who, yes, some might not be going long, some might have been going for decades, and they they've got they treat the people they meet at the ground as family. Do you know what I mean? It's a massive escape for a lot of people, and
Yeah, exactly. That's football in general, isn't it? And
yeah,
Man United, yeah.
absolutely. I know a lot of people that really suffered through COVID, not
Mm.
because of being locked up, but that release of going to a football game and meeting up, having a good old laugh at the ground and then a good old sing song. Although the singing's not, you need football to
Yeah,
be
exactly.
around sometimes, and that's disappeared. But and it's really, really important to people, and I just think the owners of football clubs know I get that it's a business. I think nobody's stupid enough to think that these football clubs are not a massive money churning business. I get that, but let's just not forget about the people and the fans that have supported you through thick and thin. Man United in the 70s getting relegated, the most followed team in what was then Division Two, coming back up, and they fans will be loyal and they'll stick with you absolutely through thick and thin. But
They just don't
there's
want to
going
feel
to
like
be
they're
a cut off.
taking the piss out of, do they? That's the thing, isn't it?
Mm.
I think it's like you say, like that we'll always be loyal no matter what. We just feel like we're being taken the piss out of a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. So,
Well, I think that the work that's being done and the sort of foundations being put in place are a good start, really. And I think as well a good step would be have you heard any sort of inklings of any? Obviously, it's not far from wholesale football. Obviously, the class of '92 have they got involved with anything? Has anyone reached out in terms of trying to just give this more eyes and ears? I suppose.
um, I don't, not as I'm aware of. I mean, the work the FSA are doing, I think it's really important to give these guys credit because they're not people that are, as I said, I sat in on the Premier League meeting with them a couple of weeks ago, and the work and the trouble they go to, and this is not just it's not just Premier League, it's football, it's with the national team, it's everything to do with football, and I think supporting causes like the FSA is massively important. I think last year we signed up with the FSA to be affiliated with, and it was something that one of the on our to-do list that grows quicker than jobs ever get done. But obviously, with the launch of the new website and things like that, it was a priority for us that we wanted to reach out to the FSA and say, look, we're here, we'll help. What do you want us to do? But it worked the other way, where we was contacted, so it kind of worked the other way around. But it's so important, they're working directly with the government as well
Yeah,
with regards to this, what they're trying to put in place with the government. So massively important organisation, and it's credit to what they do. It's kind of unsung heroes at the minute, but hopefully it gets stronger and with more fan interaction. I think from all clubs. I mean, I can only talk about my football club and, what we can do here at Old Trafford is from this point forward, we'll 100% support what the FSA are doing and give it our all as we will on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important to note as well that obviously that the protest and the thing that's going on Sunday is obviously going to be a peaceful protest as well. So, I
Oh,
don't.
absolutely.
My main point for that is I just don't want the media to try and hijack it and make it something it isn't, as they like to do. But obviously, it's really good that the FSA and yourselves are doing it, and it's really important to note as well that Everton fans are getting involved as well, and it's the joint protest.
Mhm.
And I think the more clubs and the more fans that come together to do it, because like you say, the European Super League was very much signed and sealed and delivered effectively, and it was going ahead until fans of the big six in this country just went, absolutely no way are we letting this happen.
Yeah.
And it got down to the players. Players said they didn't want it to happen as well. So I think the bigger traction that this gets, the better, and the quicker it gets it, the better, because the prices in football and the way fans are being treated can't go on much longer. And I think there's been even when you speak about the fixtures and the timings of fixtures and how they're decided, fans have constantly and forever been just forgotten about, because
Mm.
you're seeing fixtures being picked for Sunday afternoons and Monday evenings and fans can't get home from them. And it's just, fans are sick of being forgotten about and taking a piss out of. So I think it's really important to note. So to anybody going on Sunday, make sure that you're getting down to the ground early to highlight this issue. Make sure you're going, and obviously make sure you're following Steve as well, because there'll be plenty of information coming out throughout the week as well. But so thanks for highlighting that, Steve.
Mm.
I'm glad that we managed to get that some traction as well. But I wanted to move on to something else as well that you've actually already briefly mentioned. There's obviously been a lot of talk of sort of the regeneration of the area. Obviously, Gary Neville, speaking about Class of '92, Gary Neville is involved. Um, what are your thoughts of what's going to happen? Because obviously there's a bit of a division in the fan base of whether it's going to be a completely redeveloped stadium, knocked down and a new one built. What's kind of your thoughts, and what do you want to happen, I suppose?
Well, firstly, there's always a division in the fan base.
Yeah, very true.
This is
Very
just
true.
another reason to have one. But joking apart, it's a very emotional subject. I mean, for me personally, I get the logic. I went to the meeting at Old Trafford, and they had people there from the company that they've taken on that will be whichever option they go down, whichever route they go down. This company, they will be undertaking the work from start to finish, everything, and they were available. So they had three models, which was your Old Trafford, your Old Trafford Regen, and then what they call the master plan. Um, the master plan is brand new stadium, fan zones, the works, But I think that is very dependent on a lot of outside factors, as in, outside investment, not stadium wise, but for the area in general. Um, I get there's going to be issues with regenerating Old Trafford as it is. You're effectively going to have to close down. What they won't do is just redo South Stand.
Hmm.
They will rebuild Old Trafford, but it'll be done so that there'll be a stand closed down for however long it takes to rebuild that, and then move on to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. So it'll break my heart to see Old Trafford come to the ground if it comes to that. But the flip side for me is I do understand that it's probably makes more sense to have a new stadium, and the fact that Old Trafford would stay there whilst it's being built, which they did confirm that. I don't know. It's kind of one of them where you 1 minute you're one way and then another minute you're another way. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah. Do you
head
know
over
what?
heart.
Yeah, I'm exactly that. I think it depends on what day of the week you ask me.
Hmm.
For so long, I was so against it. I think of us building anew. I was so against it, and I think when it sort of came to fruition that if we were to build new, we'd build on the same site. I was a bit more swayed to, do you know what? Maybe I'm okay with it. Maybe
Hmm.
it's not fair. And I think the neglect of the stadium is why we have to potentially explore this option, and it's something else that I don't think the Glazers will ever be forgiven for, among many other things. But my worry is, and obviously we've just spoke about it for so long, but are you not worried that should a new stadium be built, they're going to use ticket prices to help fund it? Because their actions are showing no different, unfortunately.
Yeah. And all we can go off with Ineos is what they've shown us so far. And in instances like this, with pricing, with ticketing, etc., it's not been great.
No, it's not.
As you said earlier, whether it's because they're being ill-advised or whatever, you don't know. But the Colette Roach and Rick, who did the presentation on the Regen project, they were adamant that the costing for this will not be thrown back to season ticket holders and match going fans. But I know there's a new dawn with Ineos, but we've had 20 years of lies and bullshit from the Glazers, and it's difficult. It's like coming out of an abusive relationship and then finding the woman of your dreams. You kind of, in the back of your mind, you half expect to go back. This is going to end up like it was. So I think they've got a lot of work to do as far as the fan base are concerned. Is in the proof's in the pudding. What they do is how they'll be judged, and time will tell.
Yeah, I think that's my worry. I think maybe it's just expectations. We've been lied to and just forgotten about and just not cared about for so long in terms of
Yeah.
how the Glazers have been. We're almost expecting Ineos to be the same, and it has only been 8 or 9 months since they officially started. So there is an element of benefit of the doubt, and there is an element of we need to let them get it right. My concern is obviously from the removal of collecting tickets at away games in terms of in Europe, the way away fans have sort of been allocated tickets, and almost just the way that they've handled this recent one with the ticket prices being £66, all of a sudden the actions don't fill me with confidence that they're going to get this right. And my worry is obviously if they were to go with the case that a new stadium was the best option, which to be honest, personally, from seeing what's happened, I think is probably the most likely option. They've not given me any confidence that they're not going to put any cost onto the fans and they're not going to almost care. And they've got to be really careful of alienating a lot of people here, because if they do that, they won't be able to get the forgiveness back. They just won't be. They'll effectively be tarnished with the same brush as the Glazers, and I don't think they'll gain that trust back. I think it'd be really hard for them.
Yeah, and it's I think depending, and there may be a lot of sort of age related to this, where for me, as I'm getting a bit older, every year it's a grind to renew your season ticket.
Yeah,
and there's going to be a breaking point. There is for everyone, isn't there?
of course.
Whether it's genuine affordability, is people being priced out of it, or whether it is just out of principle, where enough's enough. I mean, am I asked about a new shiny stadium? Not really. I want to see what's on the pitch perform and give me something to enjoy. The surroundings and all the razzmatazz that may go with it. It's not appealing to me, but I suppose I get that it can be to some fans, but it can't cost. It can't start being lumped onto match going fans. I think as well, I don't think it's sustainable. Like you said, there's going to be a point where people will just be like, fuck this, I can't afford that, and it won't be sustainable.
Yeah,
And
the bubble will burst, won't it?
yeah, exactly.
The thing is with that as well, right, is people do only have so much money, and to not get political, but there is a cost of living crisis in it, and football fans feel that too. And obviously, I know that this new stadium, so called, is years and years away, effectively. But that there's got to be an element of fans are the heartbeat of the club, and Matt Busby, and as we all know, and he had it as a banner on the side of the
Mm.
stadium when the stadium was empty. So this is why it just feels a bit of a slap in the face.
Yeah.
From the actions recently to the worry that it's now going to be passed on to fans, they can say it won't be, but they're not acting like it won't be, and that's the major issue. I mean, like I say, personally, I can understand why it's so appealing, and I think probably for younger generations and to get new fans in, that new shiny stadium will be great. I also do see the point of so many people don't want Old Trafford to go because of nostalgic reasons, and that's completely okay too.
Mm.
I think in a dream scenario, Old Trafford wouldn't be in the state it's in to the point of the neglect that it's shown.
Exactly.
We'd be able to renew that and make it incredible there.
Yeah.
And United can have this best stadium as it in its current state because it was only 10, 15 years ago, really, that Old Trafford was probably the best in
Mm.
in
Yeah.
England. And it's just been left to decay for so long that it's no longer like that. And that's why we're even talking about a new stadium. So it's a bit shit, really. But I mean, from your point of view, do you think it's a new one or redeveloped? If you were to, if in your personal opinion, do you think
Well, we did.
if they were to land
Um,
tomorrow?
I mean, I'll be totally honest. When the club released its survey results, and there was a slight majority that was pro new stadium.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, we did our own survey. We kept
Mm,
it simple, so people would complete it. It was just a yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, da 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 da. And I mean, we had over 20,000 people complete the survey, um, and it kind of echoed what the club survey results were. So, and I was quite surprised with that. But I think everybody's, like you said, okay, well, it's going to be next to Old Trafford. I understand logically trying to, it's like trying to raise the Titanic, getting the actual Old Trafford up to speed. It's nearly an impossible task. So it's, and again, it's like the head and the heart thing, isn't it? And the heart would be you keep Old Trafford. The
yeah.
head
Never leave.
says, kind of get, I get why, da as hard as it'll be. But I mean, the one thing that was very apparent about is that if it's a new stadium, Old Trafford will go. There won't be
Yeah,
any.
which I was surprised by. I'll be honest. I,
Mm.
I I thought they'd keep it in some capacity anyway, whether it's for the winning or
To be
the word.
honest, from the plans and things, and I spoke to one of the guys, and because we had a conversation based on match stage disruptions. Now, obviously, there's going to be massive disruption
Mm,
for regenerating Old Trafford, whereas with the new stadium. But from what he was saying, that the new stadium is so close that come near completion, they would have to start knocking the back of the Stretford end down for it to actually,
oh wow.
it's. I think this. I think that the space that's usable is, it's quite a. I think it's quite a tight squeeze to get
Yeah,
in there.
I'd said I didn't know that to be fair because I thought with the amount of land around Old Trafford, I just assumed it was so large that we'd have so much room to be able to have both, and give it even on match day. So that I didn't actually know that. So I mean, I suppose it's logical, I guess, but I think it is. It's just like that heart thing, isn't it? You don't want it to go, but you understand that maybe for the best, it might have to.
Yeah,
It's just a shame as the reasons why it might have to.
yeah,
I personally can see him going with a new stadium, and like I say, I think depending on the day, I'm okay with it. I like the idea of a new stadium, but then I'm like, then I'll go to Old Trafford, and I'm like, how can you not have this place? So
yeah.
it's a horrible head and heart, and I think the fact that both surveys, the ones of yourselves and the one from the club, they've both fairly mirrored each other, and I think maybe fans aren't as against it as I thought they might have been, but
Mm.
that's fair. But yeah, just one final thing. What kind of your expectations for the rest of the season?
Um,
Do you think is it as optimistic as some people as top four and trophies, or is it really optimistic and we might clinch the title and get number 21, or is it God knows what we're going to happen?
for me, I'm on a game by game basis. That that's as much, you know, as much heartache as I can take with it all at the minute, because we've been let down so many times where, you know, all these false dawns and da 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 da. But it's I want to see progress in our identity. I want us to have an identity. We never had one under Ten Hag. To
That
this
was
day,
the
I scratched
downfall.
my head and I was like, "What the? You know, no idea what."
Well, that's what
Towards the end, I think the players also thought exactly the same. It's like, what is it we're supposed to do? But you know, we've got this guy in. He comes with high praise from the football world in general. So you can kind of only hope that. And I get that it's not going to be an overnight fix, and I kind of hope that we stick with him. You know, I mean, I think Ten Hag got a fair crack of the whip. It
he
weren't, you
definitely
know,
did.
it weren't a knee jerk reaction to get shut of him, and he did bring, you know, greatest day we've had for a good while. It was beating City in the FA Cup. So you know, you give the guy credit for that. But unfortunately, not not much else.
Not much else, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, that's the thing. You can defend him as much as people want, and I did try for so long, but I think when you're still saying after 2-3 years, what do we play like when the likes of Emery and Slot and all these people are coming into other clubs and just making an immediate impact, it does make you question what we were doing for so long with Ten Hag. Obviously, thanks so much for the memories with the FA Cup and the League Cup, but I think it was best that we moved on.
yeah,
Um, Steve, thank you very much for joining us. I
no
do
problem.
appreciate it on the first episode. It's obviously we had the technical difficulty because my laptop decided to just go back one page, but we'll pretend that didn't happen. So yeah, apologies for that. Where can people find you, mate?
Well, you can get me. Well, most people know where I am on Twitter. You follow the 1958. The Do you actually need to know the handles? Because off the top of my,
I
I don't
think
even know my
I
own.
think people will be able to find them, mate. To be honest, I'd like to think so. Anyway, at this point,
Yeah, but we've got the FC58 webpage. The 1958. So it's all everything's there. If people want to get involved, if people want to, we are still slowly getting through. We want people involved with us to come on board. So we are, you can, I wouldn't call it recruiting, but we are looking for people that want to get involved with what we're doing and and help. I would never try to tell somebody that I know absolutely everything about every aspect of Man United, whether it's financial, the legal side, the football side, whatever. But we want people that do know this stuff and they can, take a bit of that workload and let these people run with that, and we will vote them in via our members. Our members will vote those in. So, but yeah, sorry, I waffled a bit there, but
oh
that
no, don't be
thought I'd
daft.
chuck that in.
Yeah, so make sure everyone checks out Steve on Twitter as well. He does share some good stuff, and obviously, definitely make sure you're following the 1958. There is obviously the protest before the game on Sunday as well. Make sure everyone can get down to that. If you can't, at least try and share something about it to get as many eyes on it as possible. It's a really important cause. And next week, I'm very pleased to say I actually have a guest, which is really good planning for me, more than usual anyway. But I've managed to get someone who's really trying to get a good cause out there. Streetwise Stu, he's on Twitter. He's basically trying to highlight the homeless crisis at the minute, especially in Manchester as well. So I'm really excited to have him on. Make sure you check him out on Twitter as well. And there'll be some announcements in due course about that as well, because we want to see if we can try and raise some money as well, which will always be helpful. Steve, once again, thanks very much. And
No
everyone, thanks
problem.
very much for watching the first episode. I do appreciate it. And we will see you at some point this week. I don't know. It depends what happens. I might do a video about it. But if not, I'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks a lot, guys.
Perfect.